My father-in-law invited me to dinner to talk. Instead, he pulled out my credit report, mocked my student loans, and said, "You'll never be good enough for this family." My husband sat there, silent. Later that night, he said, "He's right. I can't be seen with someone like you long-term." I packed my bags in shock. What I left on the table before I walked out made him drop to his knees. I'm 31, and until a few months ago, I thought I was marrying the man who truly saw me. I'm not some spoiled brat or some social climber. I'm a normal woman from a blue-collar family in Kentucky. We didn't have money growing up, but we had respect. We had pride. My parents worked their whole lives. I worked through college. I waited tables, took night classes, graduated top of my class with a business degree. I built my life slowly, but I built it myself. Then I met Ryan. I met him at a wedding in Nashville. He was everything I thought I wanted. Funny, smart, dressed nice, and didn't act like some snob. He said his family had money, but that he didn't want to live off them. He said he wanted to earn his own way. That should have been a red flag, looking back, because he never actually did anything. But I was hooked. For 2 years, I supported that man in every way. He had business ideas. They never went anywhere. He talked big, but I was the one paying for our life together. I paid the rent. I covered groceries. I even let him use my credit card sometimes, because he'd promise he'd pay me back soon. He said we were a team. I believed that. We lived in a small condo outside Franklin, Tennessee. It was mine. My name on the lease. My name on the utility bills. Ryan would do little chores here and there, but mostly he slept in and played around on his laptop talking about the app he was building. Then one week, out of nowhere, he says, "My dad wants to have dinner with us. Just us." I asked why. He said, "He wants to get to know you better." I should have known something was off. His dad never cared about me before. I'd only met him twice, and both times he treated me like I was a waitress at his club. Cold, formal, barely said more than a few words to me. But Ryan insisted it would be fine. I tried to look nice. Not flashy, but respectful. I wore a dark green dress I'd saved for special occasions. It wasn't expensive, but it fit me well. When we pulled up to his parents' estate, my stomach dropped. The place looked like a private school. Gated. Immaculate. Columns and a circular driveway. I felt like I needed a password just to walk on the grass. Douglas, his dad, opened the door himself. He didn't smile. He didn't shake my hand. Just nodded and stepped aside. Janine, his wife, was already sitting in the dining room, swirling some drink in a crystal glass. She barely looked up. We sat down at this long, heavy table like we were in some kind of courtroom. Nobody even asked me how I was. 10 minutes into dinner, Douglas folded his napkin, pushed his plate away, and said, "Let's talk." He reached under the table and pulled out a folder. My name was on it. He opened it slowly, like he was doing a magic trick, and slid a piece of paper across to me. It was my credit report. I felt like I'd been slapped. He didn't ask me about it. He read it out loud. 56,000 in student debt, he said, like he was announcing the weather. 3,000 in revolving credit. Car loan at 6.8%. He looked at me and raised an eyebrow. "This is what you bring to the table?" I just stared at him. "Is this supposed to impress me?" he said. "My son is supposed to tie himself to this." "I'm not tying him to anything," I said. "I've paid for everything myself since I was 18. Douglas leaned back. "And yet you expect him to build a life with you? Carry your debt? Lower his value?" I looked at Ryan. He didn't say anything. He didn't even look uncomfortable. He just stared at his plate like he wasn't even there. Janine chuckled under her breath. I was shaking. I wanted to leave, but I was also angry. "I didn't ask for anything from you," I said. "I've supported him this whole time." Douglas slammed his hand on the table. "Then you're a fool. Letting someone like you pay for my son's rent? That's weakness." I turned to Ryan again. He still didn't say a word. Douglas kept going. "My son is from a legacy family. This house has stood since 1892. We don't take on baggage. We marry partners who elevate us." I stood up. I couldn't sit there anymore. I said, "This was a mistake. I don't need your approval." Douglas smiled like he'd won. "You're right," he said. "You never had it." I walked out. Ryan followed me in silence. When we got back to the condo, I sat down on the bed. He stood in the doorway. Finally, he spoke. "He's right," he said. I looked up. "What?" "He's right. Long term, I can't be with someone with your background. It's not about money. It's about perception. My family. I cut him off. You let him humiliate me. He didn't argue. Just stood there, arms crossed. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I got up and started packing. He didn't stop me. But before I left, I walked into the kitchen, opened the drawer, and pulled out the white envelope I'd hidden there weeks ago. Inside was everything. Proof of my revenge. That envelope had been sitting there for weeks. I hadn't planned to use it like this, not exactly. But when I saw the look on Ryan's face, that blank, spineless expression, I knew this was the time. I placed it on the kitchen table, slowly. He looked confused. What's that? I didn't answer right away. I opened the flap, slid out the papers, and laid them out one by one. First were the loan payoff statements. All of them. My student loans? Paid off. Credit card? Zeroed out. Car loan? Gone. He squinted at them. You paid all of this? 3 months ago, I said. Sold my mom's house. The one she left me. You know, the one I never told you about because I didn't trust you. He looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something change in his eyes. Not guilt. Not regret. Fear. Then I placed the next item on the table. A check. Made out to Ryan. $4,382. I went back through our bank records. Every time I covered your half of rent. Every grocery run. Every charge you put on my card. I told you I'd pay you back. He started. And now you don't have to. I cut him off. You're paid in full. We're done. I turned and started walking out. Wait, Tessa, hold on. I stopped. Reached into my purse. Pulled out the last piece. A photo. It was me, smiling, holding the keys to a new condo. Bought and paid for. In my name. I bought this a month ago. Cash. While you were playing CO on my dime. I dropped it on the table and walked to the door. I could hear him breathing hard behind me. Panicked. You lied to me, he said. You were planning this. No, I said, turning around one last time. I hoped I wouldn't have to. But tonight? You made it easy. And I left. I stayed with a friend for a while. Ryan tried calling me. He texted. Emailed. Said he'd made a mistake. Said he was confused. Said he was forced to take his dad's side. I didn't respond. A week later, I found out the real reason he wanted to talk. He wasn't just afraid of losing me. He was afraid of losing everything. Turns out, Douglas wasn't just some rich jerk. He was hiding things. Big things. Fraud. Embezzlement. A paper trail going back years. Real estate scams, fake investors, offshore accounts. It all came crashing down in a matter of weeks. It hit the local news. Then state news. Douglas was arrested. Janine filed for divorce. And Ryan? He got dropped from everything. His credit cards were cancelled. The startup he was running? Fake. Funded by his dad's dirty money. Now he owed thousands in taxes and penalties. He called again. Left a voicemail. You ruined my life, he said, voice shaking. I played it twice. Then deleted it. But it wasn't over. Because a few weeks later, I got a letter. From Janine. That's when things got interesting. I didn't expect anything from Janine. She barely said 2 words to me during that dinner. Always looked past me like I didn't exist. So when her letter showed up, handwritten, sealed, thick cream envelope, I thought maybe it was a legal threat. Or some last desperate move to protect the Whitmore name. But it wasn't. It started like this. Tessa, I owe you an apology. I had to sit down. She said she saw what Douglas did to me that night. She didn't speak up because she was scared of him. He controlled everything. Her finances, her reputation, her freedom. For years, she let it go on. But that night, watching him mock me, watching Ryan sit there like a coward, something snapped in her too. She wrote, You reminded me of who I used to be. I was you once. Before I married into this family and lost my voice. I stayed quiet. You walked away. That took guts I wish I had 20 years ago. That would have been enough, honestly. Just knowing she saw what happened. But the last part of her letter caught me off guard. If you're willing to meet, I have something I think you deserve to see. Something Douglas kept from Ryan. And from you. I didn't want to get dragged back into that world. But I couldn't help myself. We met at a cafe outside Brentwood. Neutral ground. She looked different, lighter maybe. Her hair was shorter. No diamond rings. Just a sweater and jeans. She thanked me again, said I'd done something she couldn't. Then she slid a folder across the table. I tensed. Another folder. But this time, it was full of emails. Screenshots. Paperwork. I read in silence. Ryan had been lying to me long before dinner night. The job he lost 2 years ago. He never had it. His startup? It wasn't even registered. He'd been using a joint account he opened behind my back, under my name and his, routing money from my credit line through it. That's why my Discover card always felt maxed too quickly. He made payments to himself. He was stealing from me for over a year. And the worst part? Douglas knew. He helped him do it. It was part of some twisted test to see if I could handle the pressure of being with a Whitmore. Douglas believed if I stuck around after being stolen from, mocked, humiliated, I was desperate enough to control. I asked Janine how she got this. She said Douglas kept everything on a hard drive. She found it while packing her things. Copied it before he could destroy it. I could take this to the police, I said. She nodded. I'll support you if you do. But I wasn't sure yet. I didn't want to go through court. I didn't want headlines or drawn-out hearings. What I wanted now was better. Quieter. More personal. Revenge that would last. So I came up with a plan. It started with a job posting. And ended with Ryan walking right into it. 3 weeks later, I posted a job listing. It was for a junior operations manager at a fake startup. The ad looked real, professional website, fake LinkedIn page, even a fake investor blog post hyping it up. I made it all myself. I gave the company a name Ryan used to brag about, Stratus Core Technologies. I knew he couldn't resist. The listing said we were looking for a visionary with leadership experience to help rebuild after a round of investor exits. It was vague enough to sound real, but clear enough to attract someone desperate. Someone like him. He applied 2 days later. Used his real name. Real resume. A cover letter where he talked about resilience through hardship. And how he grew up in a family that demanded excellence. It almost made me laugh. I replied under a fake name. Ashley Tran, Director of Talent. We set up a video interview. I blurred my face, used a voice filter, ran it all through software. He had no idea it was me. Not once. He tried to charm Ashley. Told her he had big ideas and experience in executive leadership. I offered him the job. Salary, $88,000. Full remote. Started Monday. He was thrilled. Sent back signed documents, bank info for direct deposit, everything I needed to finish what he started. And that's when I made the final move. I took the bank info. I took the emails where he admitted to opening a joint credit line using my name. I took the screenshots Janine gave me. And I went to the police. The detective I met with took me seriously. I had everything, the forged application, the joint bank withdrawals, even messages he sent admitting to the spending. I filed fraud and identity theft charges. I also called the credit card companies and reported the fake account. They launched an investigation and shut it all down. Ryan's credit score tanked within a week. Everything he owed got called in at once. Then I mailed him one more envelope. Inside was a letter from me. You said I'd never be good enough for your family. Turns out I was too good for you. Now we're even. Except I still have a future. And all you've got is your last name. Good luck cashing that. I didn't sign it. But he knew. He showed up at my condo 2 days later. Banged on the door like a maniac. Yelled my name. Told me I ruined everything. I didn't answer. I called the cops. They escorted him off the property. Gave him a warning. Said next time, he'd be arrested. I thought that would be the end. But karma wasn't finished yet. 3 months later, I saw Ryan again. He was bagging groceries at the Kroger down on Columbia Avenue. Hair long, face sunburned, hands shaking a little as he scanned items for some tired mom with a crying kid. No more watch, no more slick haircut, no more fake CEO talk. I didn't say a word. I just watched. He saw me on my way out. His eyes locked on mine. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. Because in that moment, he finally understood what I'd done. And I didn't even have to raise my voice. Douglas? He's still facing charges. 4 counts of wire fraud. 2 of tax evasion. His assets are frozen. He sold his house to cover legal fees. Janine took everything she could and moved to a quiet town in North Carolina. She sends me updates sometimes. We're not friends, but we're not enemies anymore. Ryan lost everything trying to impress a man who never loved him. And me? I'm doing fine. I got promoted at work. I'm helping young women avoid financial traps like the one I lived through. I speak at community centers. I even helped Janine connect with a legal group that helps women escape high-control marriages. I don't hate them anymore. But I'll never forgive them either. Some things you just outgrow. Like dead weight. And liars in nice suits.